Okay, this is Randy Malone at Malone Tax and Bookkeeping. I wanted to talk today about the Inflation Reduction Act. And so what happened is the IRS has been underfunded for several years. Their funding, and staffing, let's go with staffing. The staffing is 22% lower than it was in 2015. And it's acute. It's a severe problem. They're having people retire. They're having people quit, just like normal attrition from any company or job, and they're not able to replace them because of the funding. And they're having severe problems with it. They're also ancient technology. They've got 60s and 70s computers still. They have some old Windows PCs that are not updated because they can't afford to update them. A lot of things like that. During the pandemic, they got further behind because they were basically didn't work at all for about 4 months, because you can't really work from home if you're in the IRS because the information is too sensitive. And so they basically didn't work for 4 months, and then every time somebody got sick or was around somebody that got sick, they couldn't work for 2 weeks. You know, the federal government was extremely strict on their protocols for COVID, much more so than private businesses, and especially those of us in the South or in rural areas. We didn't really enforce all those rules, so it's kind of foreign to us probably. But if you live in the bigger cities, or if you live in more democratically controlled states, or you work for the federal government, then you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. But I know a lot of companies in the rural areas of the South especially, they did minimum shutdowns and minimum protocols and things like that, so they didn't get so far behind. But the IRS did, and they were already stretched really bad. So the IRS is projecting to lose about 50,000 employees over the next 10 years through normal attrition and retirement. So they're now wanting to hire 87,000 employees over this same 10-year period. So it would be increased staffing from present levels back up to really the normal levels. They're not really increasing staff, they're just getting it back to normal levels. So that's part of the 87 or $80 billion. So they're going to spend the money on a variety of things. One is that they are going to modernize the computer system. So I don't know if it's enough. I don't know how much it takes. I'm not a computer guy. I have no idea what they're going to do with it. But they are going to spend $4.8 billion just on the hardware and software to run the IRS. They're going to improve it that much, which seems like quite a bit to me. And that's about a 53% increase over present funding. So right now they're funding 3.1 billion, and so now they're doing an additional 4.8 billion. So it's like a 153% increase in funding. So it's quite a bit. It's a lot of extra funding over the next 10 years. So it's going to take a while. You can't put in $4.5 billion at once. You got to set it up in stages and organize it. And you got to have people plan all that out. It's a really huge deal to get that done, and it won't be easy. It'll take some really, really smart people with a lot of experience to get that done and to do it wisely. Also, they're going to increase enforcement. This is where the biggest chunk of money is going with enforcement, and this will be lawyers and auditors and agents, and then the support to make sure their things happen, whether they have secretaries or legal fees or whatever all that might be. I'm not even sure, but it's an additional 45.6 billion. So basically what's happened is your wealthier people pay accountants and lawyers to come up with ways of avoiding taxes. And some of those ways are legal, and some of them are not legal, and some of them are kind of in between. We don't know what they are. And I think that's where the real problem is what, because they're always coming up with a new idea. Well, let's try this. I think we can avoid some taxes if we do this. And then the IRS finds out, says, oh, they're doing the X, Y, and Z, and we don't think that meets the tax law, so we're taking them to court. So they take them to court, and then a judge decides and says, yes, you can do that, or no, you can't do that, or they put limitations on it or something of that sort. So that's the real issue there. The IRS thinks that they're missing hundreds of millions, hundreds of billions of dollars in tax collections because of lack of enforcement with the wealthier people. And the tax audits have gone down from by 75% for those making $1 million or more. And the expected tax enforcement that they're going to be doing is going to be for those making $400,000 or more. And so that's not going to be most people. It's going to be, the guy, if the 3 or 4 wealthy people that probably that's the guys they're talking about. They're not probably talking about you or me, probably. So hopefully one day we'll both be in that category, and we'll have to pay lawyers to do it because we'll have the money to do it. But right now, most of us are not going to really apply there. So then they're going to do operations. So they need a lot of customer service because they are so far behind, and there's so many issues, and there's so many problems. Their phone calls have increased, and they don't have the staff to answer them. And I know this personally because I call the IRS, or I used to call them every week. I don't call them hardly ever anymore because I can't get through. It's just a waste of time. 95% of the time that I call the IRS, I don't get through. Maybe be 98%. It's extremely high. I almost never get through. And when you do get through, you're looking at an hour and a half, 2.5 hour wait. It's a lot. And so you're spending your whole morning or whole afternoon trying to talk to the IRS about 1 or 2 problems that may only take 20 minutes once you talk to somebody and are able to start getting some idea of what they're really wanting, because sometimes the letters just aren't specific enough to really know for sure what you need to do without calling and asking a few questions and then talking to the customer, the taxpayer, and seeing what's going on. So there's a lot of phone calls that need to happen, and a lot of times we can't even make the phone call. The IRS won't answer. They won't put you in the queue. And so that's a real problem. So they're supposed to be hiring more IRS customer service agents to help handle that phone call load. Their operations is increasing also, which this is a lot of your back stuff, just examining, double checking your stuff, entering the tax returns into the system, those sorts of things. I'm not exactly sure, but they got divided into 4 categories. So you got to modernize the computers, $4.8 billion increase. Enforcement is a 69% increase, $45.6 billion. Operations is a 53% increase, $25 billion. And then services is $3.2 billion increase over what present funding is. So it's not just this amount of money. This is an increase of this much money, but it is over 10 years. It's not in 1 year. So it's about $8 billion a year on average. There'll be some ramping up, and then there'll be a big spend, and then there'll be some leveling off. So it won't all be $8 billion a year. It's going to vary every year. So back in, I think I told you this, I can't remember, in 2014, the Obamacare was passed, and there was not a single Republican vote. And then all the Democrats voted for it, or except for maybe 1 or 2 that were maybe in a moderate district or something like that. And so then all the Republicans were mad because they didn't want it to happen. And so whether you're for it or against it, that's what happened. And so now the IRS has been kind of like the ping pong ball in between them, and the Republicans have had enough power in Congress or the Senate to keep the funding from increasing. So what happens when you have Obamacare, then you have all these reports that you have to do. Did this person meet the requirement? Did they not meet the requirement? Was it adequate? Were they funded? Were they subsidized? Were they not subsidized? How much were they subsidized? Were they over-subsidized? Were they under-subsidized? So all those things take place on the tax return. And so they had to have additional staffing just to handle that. And they didn't increase the staffing. In fact, I think they decreased funding over that period of time. So it's just caused severe problems for 7 or 8 years. And then the pandemic hit, and it just made it worse because they got so far behind, nobody being able to work. And then being sick a lot, or if they were exposed to someone sick, they couldn't work because the IRS cannot do at-home work. It's not possible. It's too many security issues. Can't happen. So that's the problems that's had. So I think it's a very good bill. I'm a conservative person, but this is a much needed bill, and the people that pay taxes need to pay them. And the people that are otherwise, what they're going to do is just going to increase taxes on everybody, and the same people that aren't paying taxes are going to keep not paying them or keep underpaying. And so this is what the IRS is trying to do. They're trying to say, well, this is what the law is, this is what was voted for. If we can get that money, then we won't have to increase taxes, because our Treasury Department has been borrowing money at horrendous rates, and has increased the debt trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars, and they want to stop that, which makes sense. So that's what's going on with the Inflation Reduction Act. Some people are for it, some people are against it. Most people don't really know what they're talking about and what the advantages are. I think unless you're making over $400,000 a year, it's to your advantage. And if you're making over $400,000 a year, then maybe some of the stuff you're doing might not fly anymore. But even then, they've got some time, because they've got to hire people, they've got to get all this stuff in place, they've got to train the people. And so it's going to take 3 or 4 years for this thing to really start hitting. But I don't expect to see much differences over the next 2, probably 3 years. But then after that, I do expect to see enforcement going up quite a bit. And I do expect it to be, like they said, on the higher end, because that's where they think most of the money is anyway. You know the old saying, go where the money is. That's how you get the money, is you go where the money is. So hopefully that was helpful for everybody. And this is Randy Malone at Malone Tax and Bookkeeping. We do tax preparation in the Hot Springs, Arkansas area. We specialize in just tax preparation. We do small businesses, small corporations. We do tax negotiations. If you owe a lot of money, we help you with that. You don't have to hire one of those guys that's on TV or radio and saying that they are going to do something great for you, and they're just lying most of the time. But we know what the rules are. We know how to get you the best deal. We know how to file back tax returns to make sure that you don't pay too much for the taxes that you owe, or maybe don't owe. And we'll help you get back on board. We'll help you line it out, and we'll help you stay current. And we'll teach you how to keep up with your receipts and how to properly bookkeep everything, so that when the IRS does come, and that one day, that really bad day when they decide to audit you, if you've been with us long enough, then you won't have any problems. We'll have everything backed up. We'll have all the receipts. We'll have all the reports, and you will be fine. And we will also, with our bigger customers especially, they really want a lot of tax planning. We do that also. We teach you how to use SEP plans, and or when to invest in just an IRA, some people, how to use an S Corp properly. We teach people how to use those things, and we help you set them up if you need to. So those are the things that we do at Malone Tax and Bookkeeping in Hot Springs, Arkansas. So give us a call, 501-525-4800. We'd be happy to help you out any way that we can. And we do offer free consultations. Usually we'll give a free 30-minute consultation, no problem at all. We can do it over the phone if you're out of town, or if you want to come into our office, if you're in the Hot Springs area, please come on in, and we'll be happy to meet with you and tell you everything that we can. Tax season's coming up. It'll be full blast in about a month, or actually a little bit less than a month. Usually about the 2nd or 3rd of February, it really starts getting pretty busy. Right now, our bookkeepers are busy, and we're trying to finish up our year-end bookkeeping, and then we'll be getting our 1099s and W-2s out. We got to get all that done in January. But if you have needs or if you have questions, please give us a call, and we'll see if we can help you with some of those things also right now. And then try to get you ahead next year for 2023, so that when you get to the end of the year, you're not in a difficult situation, scrambling, trying to figure out what you got to do. So give us a call. It's Randy at Malone Tax. Bye.